Real Ponies Don't Go Oink by Patrick McManus. Chapter entitled Pouring My Own. Some years ago, I bought a little house in the country because my wife said it was perfect. An hour after closing the deal, Bun said there was only one problem with the house. I thought it was perfect, I said. Well, it is, she replied, but I don't like the little dirt path that leads to the back door. Well, I like it, I said. It says country to me. It says dirt to me. Put in a concrete walk. I called a contractor who specialized in concrete work. The man turned out to be an amateur comic. He would not be serious. The price he gave me for a 30-foot walk obviously was intended to get a laugh. I refused him even a chuckle in response, hoping to discourage any further attempts at humor. Seriously, though, how much would you charge? I asked. He quoted the same absurd price. The man would not let go of what he obviously thought a wonderful gag. So I gave up on him. I'll pour the walk myself, I told Bun. It can't be that difficult. I'll slap together a form out of some 2x4s, dump in some pre-mixed concrete, smooth it all up, and presto, a concrete walk. And presto, a disaster, she replied. Pay the man what he wants. No, I will not, I said. After all, it isn't as though I haven't had experience pouring concrete. I poured the piano. No, I poured the patio at our last house, and it didn't turn out too badly. Yeah, as a poor imitation of a Henry Moore reclining sculpture, maybe. So you can't have everything. Besides, I ran into some unforeseen problems. There are many unforeseen problems working with concrete. The wonderful thing about it is that whatever you make may last 1,000 years. That, of course, can also be one of its major disadvantages. The recipe for concrete consists of mixing unknown quantities of water with 1 part cement, 3 parts sand, 5 parts gravel, and 10 parts cold sweat. The cold sweat results from the fact that wet concrete contains its own ticking version of a time bomb. When the clock runs out, the concrete hardens into permanence without regard for your desires or feelings. It has no mercy. It doesn't say, oh, I see, you wanted a nice, flat, smooth concrete floor, and I'm still in the shape of a surf. I'll just hold off hardening for another hour. No, concrete doesn't say that. If the clock runs out while the concrete is in the shape of a surf, you get a surf. Surf that will last 1,000 years. Back when I was a teenager, a carpenter hired me to help him pour a concrete floor in a dairy barn. The premix trucks brought too much concrete too soon, too fast, which is their standard practice. Here I must say a word about the drivers of concrete trucks. Before being hired, they are required to sit through all the Marx Brothers movies. If they crack so much as a smile at the wild antics on the screen, they are immediately disqualified for employment. The reason for this is that the owners of concrete companies believe it is bad for business to have their drivers writhing on the ground and in problems of mirth induced by the frenzied antics of recipients of too much concrete too soon and too fast. Because they had other orders to fill, the drivers dumped the concrete in great gray oozing heaps at one end of the dairy barn. The carpenter released a strangled cry of horror, grabbed a shovel and wheelbarrow, and turned into a streaking blur of motion, depositing dabs of concrete here and there about the form, but without reducing the gray heaps noticeably. Despite their training, a couple of the drivers broke into smiles, and one had to bite his lip to keep from laughing outright. Knowing nothing about the nature of concrete, I stood gawking at the carpenter's amazing performance, unsure of whether I was expected to applaud. Suddenly, the blur halted a few inches from my face, and a crazed wild creature emerged, sweat streaming down over his bulging red eyes and dribbling off its quivering jowls. It barked sharply at me. Supposing that my life was in danger, I too grabbed a shovel and a wheelbarrow and began moving concrete, although not with the same enthusiasm as the creature. By midnight, the floor was done. It was not unattractive. The gray waves undulated rhythmically from one end of the barn to the other, here and there crashing against a wall or storage vent, and at other places settling into hard rippling pools, havens of calm on the edge of a receding storm. The farmer who owned the barn, however, was a practical man and not much given to aesthetic appreciation. He expressed the opinion, rather sullenly, I thought, that his cows would churn their own butter just walking to their stanchions. Hoping to introduce a bit of levity into a tense situation, I told him he might like the floor better if he painted it blue, possibly with blotches of white scattered about to suggest foam. He responded only by glaring at me and grinding his teeth. I judged from his expression that he didn't think highly of our work, although that it is only conjecture. Personally, I thought the floor turned out pretty well, particularly considering that it was the work of an inexperienced teenage boy and a crazed wild creature. One of the reasons I'd run into unforeseen problems pouring the patio was that I'd read this how to pamphlet on pouring concrete. The author, who's apparently still on the loose, stop him before he writes another one, made pouring concrete sound about as complicated as making mud pies. It is, in fact, serious work. It takes careful preparation and planning, the neglect of which had caused most of my troubles with the patio. I would not make the same mistake pouring the walk. Every single little step and calculation would be worked out to the nth degree. Here's the plan, I told Bud. I'll eliminate the middleman. I'll go down to the tool rental company and rent a special trailer for hauling premix concrete. The company will place just enough concrete in the trailer for my walk, for which I have worked out the exact specifications. I tow the trailer home, run my wheelbarrow up under the spout, open the gate, the concrete flows smoothly into my wheelbarrow, and I then wheel the wheelbarrow over to my forms and dump it. When the forms are full, I level off the concrete and smooth it up. Presto, a concrete walk, simple as making mud pies. Where have I heard that before? She asked. I nipped off to the tool rental place and soon returned with a trailer full of concrete. A crowd of spectators had gathered to watch the pouring of the walk, mostly neighborhood children, but also a few mothers who had tagged along just for the laughs. As one of them joshingly put it, why my efforts at serious work should be regarded as a source of comedy in the neighborhood, I don't know. Not wishing to disappoint the entertainment starved wretches, however, I grabbed my wheelbarrow with a theatrical flourish and attempted to run it up under the trailer spout. But the spout was 6 inches too low for my wheelbarrow. Already I could hear the tick, tick, tick of the concrete hardening inside the trailer. Refusing to panic, I ripped a few boards off the side of my garage and I built a 6 inch high ramp to back the trailer onto. The trailer crushed the ramp like a house of toothpicks, provoking the spectators to laughter and applause. Do it again, one little bugger chirped. Do it again. Panic now seeming the proper response to the situation, I snatched up a shovel and I dug a slanted trench beneath the spout, spewing dirt over the spectators and half the yard. Mothers clamped hands over the ears of the children. What's he saying, Mama? A nipper cried. What kind of what kind of concrete did he say it was? With suspense building primarily in me, I grabbed the wheelbarrow, ran it down the trench, and opened the gate to the spout. Not a drop of concrete flowed forth. The audience dispersed. That they fled for their lives is part of the myth of the neighborhood, with no more basis In fact, in the imaginative reports that I turned into a crazed wild creature, my own recollection is that I greeted the predicament with icy calm. In fact, I clearly recall staring at the sign on the trailer that warned of a $25 fee if the trailer was returned unclean. I wondered if a solid cubic yard of concrete inside the trailer qualified as unclean. Fortunately, only the outer layer of concrete had solidified to the point where it refused to flow. By gouging at this outer crust with my shovel, I would by no means describe this effort as frenzied, a word often misused by my dear Bun. I was able to release a sluggish stream of concrete into my wheelbarrow. I realized, of course, that the ticking time bomb of the concrete was ticking its last ticks. Haste was called for, and haste came. And presto, a concrete walk. The casual observer of the walk, however, might have assumed it was something else, possibly a free-form imaginative work with textures varying from near smooth to lumpy. Here and there, twigs protruded from the concrete, which also entombed partially or wholly one child's sneaker, one war glove, a Timex with a broken strap, countless leaves, several thousand insects, small squiggles in the concrete attested to their last desperate struggles, and possibly a cat, whose mysterious disappearance coincided with the pouring of the walk. Once again, a courageous do it yourself had gone forth to slay the dragon of concrete and return burnt to a crisp. But Bun said she thought the walk would work just fine for as long as it lasted. Yeah, I said. It's really not too bad. Heck, that walk could last 1,000 years. 3 days, Bun said. That's the soonest the demolition men can come. And that is pouring my own.